Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baseline with Colton Turner. This is Colton Turner, the one who is currently speaking to you right now. So, this is going to be our first video or audio for right now. We're going to be going along, improving as time progresses. But for our first episode, we are going to have a look into the draw for the US Open. I'm going to be making predictions for who's winning over who, and all the way up to our eventual champions. Now, let's see how this is going to go. So let me take a look at our draw with it. So I've already gone through it a little bit, and I am pretty sure my predictions are not going to be popular with people because, oh gosh. Okay, so we'll start off with the women's draw first, and we'll take a look at the first match up. So Swiatek versus Rakimova. So I went ahead and put Iga to advance to round 2 with Daria Saville to go advance with her. And let's see, with Cacciaretto Bindle, I went with Cacciaretto playing against Pavlyuchenkova. So far, kind of going with expectations, at least I believe. So we get to Andrea Osorio, and that's kind of like an interesting match, I would say, because Osorio can provide a little bit of disruption with her matches, but I don't really see that disrupting Andrea that much. So I went ahead and will place her into the second round, going against Kruger. Now, Kruger is a very hard hitter versus Zhang, so I imagine from what I've heard, that the courts are pretty fast for the U.S. Open. I think that that's just going to be a pretty good combination with Kruger's game, and so that's just going to be a win for her into the second round. So let's see, who do we have next? Lise versus Buskova. I went ahead and went with Buskova because I feel that she's got more consistency with it. She's dependable with her wins. So I would say that's going to be a good pick for that matchup. So with her meeting Samsonova. On to Danielle Collins versus Dola Hyde. Now, Collins is a special case for this tournament since this is going to be her final season. We have to really see how she progresses through this tournament. If the expectations of this being her last Grand Slam if that gets into her mindset on how she plays, or is that really just going to fuel the fire with her game? And, for this past season, she has done pretty well. She won in Miami and, Charleston, the clay court. So she has, really good wins on her belt for this season. So we'll see if she can use that for this final Grand Slam for her. I do have her taking on Buxa over Irani. And for our next one, I have Towson over Schmidlova, meeting Schneider into the second round. With the next one, let's see. We're going to have Bolcher advancing, playing against Bozas Monero. Now, from what I remember, Bozas Monero had a little decent run for her for Wimbledon, and we'll see if that will encourage her to do good as well into this tournament now that she is into round 1, not having to qualify for the main draw, or I think she did. I don't know. I have to look back on that. But, back into the main draw for a Grand Slam, we'll see how that goes for her. Now, Raducanu and Kedin. Now, I feel like this really sucks for Sofia Kenin because I don't know if it's just me. I know how the picking with the matchups happen. It's a random draw. But Cannon can get some very bad draws to start out with. Facing really, really good performing players, and Raducanu is, she's not seeded, but she can fight her way on court. But I don't think Raducanu is going to stop Sophia in this round, so I do have Kenin moving on into the second, with meeting Jessica Pegula as well. Now that's going to be our round 1 picks for the quarter, so let's just go ahead and move into the round 3. So for Iga versus Darius Saville, I did go with Iga to advance to round 3, meeting Cacciaretto over Pavlyuchenkova. I just think that Cacciaretto can provide a little bit more fight with the matchup of Pavlyuchenkova. We haven't really heard much of Pavlyuchenkova. She's kind of just steadily coasting, but I don't know, from the matches that I've seen Cacciaretto play, she can really put up a good fight with it, so I do have her advancing over into the third round. For our next one, I would say Andreeva would advance over Kruger, meeting Samsonova into that third round. Now we go on to the next one. I see Collins going against Schneider. Now that's going to be an interesting matchup. Very interesting matchup, and we'll get back to that. So the last third round for this first quarter, I have Bozas Monero over Bolter. Now that is a little bit of a controversial pick, I know. I just don't know how Bolter is going to be in this last Grand Slam. She provided a big fight in Wimbledon. I believe that she lost to Harriet Dart, but she can perform whenever she's on it. But I don't know. This is more of a heart over head, But I do want to think that Bozas Monero will take it for that matchup, eventually meeting Pegula, winning over Kenin. Now into the fourth round with it, we have I have Iga facing Andreeva. Now, I think that's a little bit of a kind of like an expected match from all the talks that I have heard with this draw. So, I'm following the norm with that. I do have for this quarter, the next one would be Danielle Collins over Schneider to meet Jessica Pegula, with Collins advancing over Jessica, meeting Iga, with my pick of the quarters winner for that section. Surprisingly, I'm going to go with Danielle. I don't know. I feel like I have this feeling that she's going to put up a large fight with this last Grand Slam, and she can really take on the crowd's energy and use it to her advantage with these kinds of matches. And we did see in their past matchups her winning over Iga at the Australian Open. I don't know how many years ago that was, but she has the capability of beating Iga, and so I think that's going to play into this year's US Open. Now, on to our next section of the draw. Let's see. With our second round picks, I have Rybakina meeting Zhang, with Wozniacki meeting Garcia. In that, we will have Haddad Maya meeting up against Sorribes Tormo. Now, that's going to be an interesting matchup. With Para meeting Kalinskaya. Now, with Kalinskaya, she is in a relationship with Jannik Sinner, and we all know, the whole tennis world basically knows the news with Jannik Sinner with the doping, but he was I forget the word of it. He was allowed to play and continuing to play tennis, and so he never faced a ban. But, like going into the US Open, we'll see how that is going to affect his mentality going into the first round. And we'll see if that kind of situation could possibly flow over into Kalinskaya and her game. But I don't know if that will be a part of the consideration for her. So we'll see how that is going to go into the lead up of this tournament, into the first few days of it. Now, with the next one, I do have Ostapenko going over Naomi Osaka. Now, that is a popcorn of a match because, Naomi, she almost beat Iga in the French Open in the first round, first or second, literally had a match point over Iga on Iga's favorite surface. And so, right now, I don't know. I don't think that she is at a place to where she wants to be yet. She's still building on her game and wanting to get better, but I don't think that it's going to really be found in this tournament, especially meeting a top 10 seed in the first round, because that's full throttle to start with. It's not going to be an easing into the tournament for Osaka, so that's going to be a rough match for her if she was to pull through, but I do have Ostapenko prevailing in that match to meet Mukova in the second round. Now, I will have Lepchenko versus Leylah Fernandez in the second round, with the last two matches of the first round for this quarter will be Putintseva versus Rodionova, as well as Sharif meeting Paolini. Now, Paolini versus Andreescu, that first match, that'll be a watch. I mean, obviously, it's going to be on Louis Armstrong Stadium, so that's obviously a popcorn of a match. But Andreescu and Paolini have met for the past two Grand Slams, and this is going to be their third meeting in a Grand Slam this year, and so that's going to be, I don't know. I most likely think that the result is going to be the same. Like, if patterns persist, Paolini is going to advance over Andreescu. So for this section, for the third round, Rybakina with Zhang, I do have Rybakina meeting Wozniacki, who prevails over Garcia. Now, Garcia, I just don't know with her. She can be very, very streaky, but I don't think that she will have what it takes to advance to the third round. Like, if we kind of go with like momentum, with the Olympics, she did go out early, as a French player with the Paris crowd. Like, the French crowd is very, very much for their home players. So for her to not really pull out a win with that, to like kind of build more momentum, I don't see her reaching the third round. Now with Haddad Maya over Cerebus Tormo, Haddad Maya going over, surprisingly meeting Para over Kalinskaya. Again, I think that the situation with Jannik Sinner will probably take into effect her at some point, so I don't think that she will make it out of the second round. Now, I won't be surprised if she does, but kind of like another heart over head, I think Para might prevail in that one. Next matches, Ostapenko prevailing over Mukova to meet Leylah Fernandez prevailing over Lepchenko, with our last match of the third round for this quarter with Putintseva going over Rodionova, meeting Paolini over Sharif. Now for our fourth round picks, I do have Rybakina over Wozniacki. I just really think Rybakina will just basically overpower Wozniacki. I don't think Wozniacki has the weapons to really hurt Rybakina. With the forehand, she loves consistency with that forehand. Her backhand is mainly her weapon, but I don't see that penetrating the court enough to put Rybakina on her back foot for Wozniacki to really take advantage in those situations, especially with Rybakina being one of the top ace leaders of the WTA. That's just going to be a real tough setup for Wozniacki. It's just, it's not going to be all that surprising for Rybakina to win that match. Now, for the fourth round, I do have Rybakina meeting Haddad Maya over Para, with the next match, Leylah Fernandez over Ostapenko meeting Paolini over Putintseva. Now, Paolini, she has like a lot of momentum being in the finals of the last two majors, as well as winning gold in doubles for the Olympics. So she has a lot really going for herself. So I think that would be a predictable matchup. Now, Fernandez over Ostapenko, I think that with Leylah's win over Rybakina in one of the lead-up tournaments for the U.S. Open, I think that can really put in confidence for her against these hard hitter players, for her to kind of find her way and really scratch her way to the win against Ostapenko, with her prevailing over Paolini, going against Rybakina, with Leylah beating Rybakina for the second time in the row to go to the semis. Now, for the third quarter section of the draw, let's get to this. Where are you at? There you are. I have Krejcikova into the second round going against Rus, with Taylor Townsend over Trevisan to reach the second round playing against Badosa. Let's see. Now, Azarenka will most likely meet Stevens going to that second round, with Perry and Wang, or with Perry playing another Wang in the second round. I don't, because Wang versus Sakari, not Wang versus Perry, I don't really have much confidence in Sakari's capability of performing well at the majors. Like, she has a lot of early round losses in the majors, and I think that it's, once I see consistent like early round wins with Sakari, like going to the end of the first week leading up into the second, if that's a consistent thing that happens for her, I would have her prevailing over Wang in the first round. But I think that this is going to be one of those quote-unquote upsets, which I don't think that it will be an upset like matter of factly just because of her record at the Grand Slam level. Now let's see. For the next match, I do have Navarro over Blinkova playing against Bogdan over Rus. Now the next one, Dart to meet Kostyuk, with Svitolina meeting Kalinina in that second round, a all-Ukrainian matchup. Now for the last match of the first round for the quarters, I do have Maria over Sierra going against Coco Gauff. Now for the third round picks, we do have Krejcikova over Rus meeting, of all things, I would say really Taylor Townsend prevailing against Paula Badosa. I think, Taylor Townsend is at a all-time high for her ranking, and we know that is something that she really has been fighting for, like continuously trying to raise her ranking, and that's a really important thing for her. And I think that she's really in a good place mentally, especially with her win in women's doubles at Wimbledon. Like she's probably at like an all-time high, and the confidence can be soaring through the roof for her. And I think that's going to be taking her pretty far into that tournament, or into this tournament. So for the next one, I do have Azarenka going over Stephens. Azarenka is a very reliable pick, and I think that Stephens is just not at the place where we would want her to be, as a past Grand Slam champion, the 2017 U.S. Open champion. We haven't seen that type of Sloane really in a while, and so I don't think that's going to change so quickly. So I do have Azarenka over Stephens meeting Perry into that third round. For the next couple matches for the round 3 for this quarter, I have Navarro over Bogdan, with Kostyuk prevailing over Dart, with the last match of the third round, Kalinina prevailing over Svitolina. That, I would say, I don't know. Like I said again, heart over head, I think Kalinina will provide a surprise over Svitolina for that match, with her obviously meeting Gauff in the third round. So with the fourth rounds, I have, again, I think that with Taylor's confidence being at an all-time high, I think that she could possibly prevail over Krejcikova. Now, this is not to discount Krejcikova's accomplishments with winning the trophy at Wimbledon. Like, obviously, that is a major accomplishment. She is now a 2-time Grand Slam champion. But, I'd like to think on, I don't know, with the tournament being Taylor's home country, I think that the factor of the crowd can also put into play with the matchup. And so I think with the whole mix with it, I do think Taylor will prevail to that fourth round, playing Azarenka over Perry, with the next matchup in the fourth round, Navarro over Kostyuk meeting Gauff for it. And I do have Navarro over Gauff, again, with Taylor Townsend over Azarenka. Now, I'm probably going to get a lot of heat for these Taylor picks. I know that, and I'm prepared for it, but I don't know. I don't know. It's like a gut feeling. A gut feeling. But I do have Navarro taking it over Taylor to end that streak for her, with Navarro prevailing to the semis. Now, for our last quarter section of the women's draw. Let's see. Now, Amanda Anisimova versus Zhang. That is a strong first round matchup with them playing at Louis Armstrong Stadium. I think that Amanda does have the more recent momentum going into this tournament with her having made the finals of one of the lead-up tournaments. I forget if it was Toronto or Cincinnati. No, it wasn't Cincinnati. It was Toronto. She met Jessica Pegula and lost. But I think with that more recent win, I believe that will take more into account for this matchup against Zhang. I mean, obviously, Zhang won the gold medal for the Olympics, but that's clay court. Now, this is hard court, and I think that Amanda does have the power to put Zhang on her back foot and be able to take advantage in those situations. So I do have Amanda prevailing over Zhang, meeting Yuan over the sister of Mira Andreeva. With the next matches, I see Donna Vekic meeting Menen, with Stearns and Kazakina for the next match. Now, that one's going to be a very interesting watch. I am excited for that potential matchup. And now, Siniakova versus Keys. Keys has not played. I think she's only played like one match between her injury at Wimbledon to now. And so I don't think that she has the momentum or just like the match play in general, the match reps in general, to confidently pull out a win over Katerina Siniakova. So I do have Siniakova prevailing over Madison Keys to meet Siegman into that second round, with Lee prevailing over Tomljanovic, with surprisingly, I think Kudermetova will make it past Mertens. Now, they have met a lot on the doubles court, so they do know each other's games pretty well, but I do have a feeling that Kudermetova will prevail over Mertens in that matchup. Now, for the next matches, I would have Alexandrova meeting Linette in the second round, with Soon meeting Sabalenka. Soon, I am really excited to see where she is at with her tennis now going into the U.S. Open because of her pretty deep run. You know, having in Wimbledon, having qualified, going, I think she made it to like at least the fourth round of Wimbledon. So she has now the big match experience and I would say like the toughness or like the match toughness in the Grand Slams going into the U.S. Open. I mean, she's only been in one so far with Wimbledon, but I think with that deep run, I see that she would have a lot of confidence going into this, and it'll be interesting to see where she is at with that. So I do have her meeting Sabalenka in the second round. Now for the third round, I have Anisimova over Yuan meeting Niemeyer over Korpach. Vekic prevailing over Menen, with Stearns edging it out over Kasatkina. And Siniakova facing Kudermetova in that part, with lastly Alexandrova meeting Sabalenka in that third round. Now for the two matches for the fourth round for this section, I see Anisimova with her momentum going into that tournament. I do see her prevailing over Vekic in that fourth round. Now, Vekic, she has been playing really good lately with the Wimbledon semifinals. I know that was a big thing that she wanted to accomplish, getting to a semifinal at least in a Grand Slam, and her having made that goal with it, but just not really being able to push through for that final against Paolini to make the final, as well as getting silver in the Olympics. She has a lot of stuff going for her, but in my eyes, I see that there may be possibly mental fatigue that might play into that match. Anna Samova, she's coming off of a mental break, and so she is fresh and fit, I would say. So I think that Amanda will have an advantage over Vekic to prevail in that match, meeting Sabalenka in the quarters, with Sabalenka prevailing over Amanda to reach the semis. Now, for our semis matchup that I have, for the top section, I do have Danielle Collins meeting Leylah Fernandez in the semis against Emma Navarro against Sabalenka. Can you tell that I'm particular towards the North Americans? I don't know how this happened. I seriously don't know how this happened. And I apologize, because this is probably not going to happen. I mean, semis, I might have one ride with Sabalenka going into it, but I don't know how we got here. But with it, I have Collins over Leylah Fernandez to reach her second Grand Slam final and last one, meeting Navarro, who prevails over Sabalenka. With, in my pick, an All-American final. We haven't had that since, 2017 with Venus Williams against Sloane Stephens, where Sloane Stephens did win in that. So we could possibly, at least in my hopes and dreams with this pick, we could possibly have an All-American final. Collins and Navarro meeting, with my pick of Navarro getting her first Grand Slam victory. I have a feeling that Navarro is honestly, she's like right there with her tennis. She is very, very mentally strong. Like, you can't really tell what's going on inside her head. Like, everything is just like a blank canvas with her emotions, and nobody knows what's going on really except for her. And so it's kind of on the same level with how Rybakina plays, or with her like mentality. Like, they're both like, they could win the biggest match of their lives and flat face. So I do think Navarro is a very mentally strong person, and like, her game is really there. I mean, she's the 13th seed of the draw, and so yeah, I would say that this will be her maiden Grand Slam victory. Will that happen? Personally, I hope it does, because Americans want to see their fellow compatriots or fellow citizens do good. So let's hope, but I don't know how I even got there. I don't think an All-American final will happen, at least. So on I don't know. On to the men's draw. Golly, what am I doing? With my picks? Now, the men's draw, looking through it, it's a lot more predictable. I would say it's a lot more straightforward with the picks than the women's draw, because the women's draw is very deep with their skill level. Basically, like, anybody can really pull through and make a deep run on the women's side. Men's, it's a bit easier, in my opinion, to be able to predict who wins a certain matchup. So let's see what my picks are. I do have Sinner advancing to the second round, meeting Michelson. Wawrinka meeting Jerry. Let's see. Arthur Feast going to the second round, meeting Munar, with Purcell against Paul. Now after that, Tsitsipas versus Kokkinakis. That is a popcorn match. That is going to be an interesting one to watch. Now, with Stefanos, I do think that this could be a match that he could lose. I think that if I'm thinking of the right player, he did part ways with his dad as his coach. And we'll see how that plays into effect with his tennis now, going into this final Grand Slam of the year. I think that this match could be a toss-up on who wins, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kokkinakis were to prevail in that matchup. Now with it, I do have Tsitsipas meeting Coria. With the next matches, Taro Daniel meeting Felix Auger-Aliassime into that second round. With the last two matches of the first round for this quarter, I do have, let's see, Kaboyi, I hope I'm saying that right, meeting Kotov in the second round, with Marozhin and Medvedev rounding out that last match for the second round meetups. For the third round, I mean, obviously I would see Sinner advancing into the third round with Jerry over Wawrinka, Feast prevailing over Munar, meeting Paul, prevailing over Purcell. Again, if the coaching change doesn't take into account with Tsitsipas, I see him prevailing over Coria to meet FAA in that third round, with the last third round match, Kaboyi versus Medvedev. Now in the fourth round, this could be where it gets a little bit tricky for Sinner, because he's probably already getting bombarded with questions about this whole doping scandal that he has going on, and we'll see how that takes into account with his game, if his mentality will be where he needs it to be in the US Open. And if he's fine, then he could be unstoppable. He won the Australian Open at the beginning of this year, and with this being the second hard court Grand Slam of the season, I don't know. I really see him with taking out all the factors of that doping situation. If he is to be able to move past it, if he's able to move past it, I don't see a lot stopping him to reaching his second Grand Slam victory. Now I have him meeting Paul into the fourth round, with FAA meeting Medvedev. Sinner prevailing over Paul to meet Medvedev in that matchup, with Sinner going over Medvedev. I just think, Sinner, again, if he's there mentally, Medvedev shouldn't provide that much of a problem. Paul could be an interesting matchup because, he is a home player. He's an American, because the American crowd, obviously, hometown crowds want to go for their players. So we'll that'll be a fun match, at least to watch, but I do have Sinner making his way into the semis. On to the second quarter of the draw. I have Alcaraz prevailing over his first round opponent to meet Shapovalov, with Diaz Acosta going up against Jack Draper. Let's see. Tabilo facing Koric. And Mahak prevailing to meet Korda into that second round. Now for the second half of that quarter, De Minaur to meet Hallis. Altmaier against Kachanov. Where are we at? Let's see. Sorry, I lost my place. We're going with Arnaldi to play Safulin, rounding out the last match of Lestian versus Hurkacz in the second round. I do have Alcaraz going into the third round over Shapovalov to meet Jack Draper, and Tabilo over Koric to meet Korda in that third round. Now, De Minaur is going to make his way to the third round, meeting Kachanov, and Arnaldi going against Hubert Hurkacz. Now, for the fourth round, Alcaraz, obviously, to make his way. But, interestingly enough, I think that Korda is going to be making a pretty strong run in the Open. I feel that he has potential to be able to do really good in these big tournaments, and I'm just waiting for like the day that it just all finally clicks, because I think he has the weapons and potential to be able to make these consistent deep runs in these majors. We just need to start seeing it with him, and I think that he is on the cusp of that, so that's why I have him against Alcaraz in that fourth round matchup, with De Minaur meeting Arnaldi in the fourth round as well, with De Minaur prevailing over Arnaldi to meet Alcaraz, but obviously Alcaraz to go into that semis over De Minaur. For the third quarter of the draw, I have Ruud going up against Gael Monfils. Now, Gael, he is playing Schwartzman in that match, and I do think that will be a toss-up on who wins. But I don't know. It's a 50-50 chance, so coin flip, going with Monfils for that matchup. Carballes Baena to meet Bublik, and Humbert to meet Stricker. Berrettini to meet Fritz in the second round. Now that's going to be a fun match to watch if Fritz and Berrettini were to meet in that second round. I feel that they will, but we always got to put an if in front, because you never know. Nakashima to prevail over Runa. I don't know if Runa is. I don't know. It's a very interesting matchup, and I don't see Runa making it past Nakashima, because Nakashima is a pretty strong player, American as well with the home crowd. Runa is a very feisty player, and it could be his day or it could not be his day, and I just foresee it not really being his type of matchup that he will come out of. Now, Nakashima meeting Kazo over Carino Busta going into that second round. Kecmanovic over Nishioka to meet Musetti over Riley Opelka. Musetti has a lot of momentum going into that second round, but it is going to be an interesting watch with Opelka. Opelka is obviously trying to make his way back to the high rankings of the ATP. He is a really tall player with a very, very massive serve, so we'll see how Musetti deals with that, but I don't see Musetti really losing that match. Now, for the last couple matches for the second round meetups, I do have Cerundolo meeting Echeverry with Mueller meeting Zverev. Lastly, now going back up to the top of the third round picks for this quarter, I see Ruud making his way into the third round, meeting Bublik. Humbert over Streaker, meeting Fritz versus Berrettini. I'm very interested to see a Fritz and Berrettini match. That is going to be a spotlighted match. And, Fritz is the seed, but Berrettini, he could really have a chance to be able to make his way over Fritz. But, yeah, I don't think that Fritz will lose that match. So he's an unconfident pick for me to go into that third round. Now, for the next ones, I got Nakashima over Kazo to meet Musetti, prevailing over Kecmanovic, with the last match of the third round, Cerundolo to meet Zverev, with Zverev prevailing over Cerundolo to meet Musetti, with Fritz to meet Ruud into that fourth round. Now, Ruud and Fritz, again, can be a toss-up, like the Berrettini and Fritz match. But I just think if Fritz is able to really get himself into the second week, he can be a big force to go up against, and I think that will possibly happen against Ruud. So I do have Fritz going to the quarters to meet Zverev, with Fritz prevailing over Zverev in that matchup. Now, we're getting to the end parts of this. We're getting close. So, for the last quarter of the section of the draw, we have Rublev meeting Eubanks in the second round. Kruger going his way over Grenier. I don't know. It's a French name. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Meeting Lehechka, prevailing over Fuchsovix. Going on, we got Baez over Darderi. Now, I haven't really heard of Darderi before, so we're going over for the seed. So Baez meeting Greek Spore over Nagal. Now I have for the next one Dimitrov over sorry, back up. Davidovich Fekina meeting Dimitrov in that second round. Let's see, Shelton versus Team. That I feel bad for Team. I think this will probably be like the last season for him. And just to really pick a strong player for the first round, I don't see him making it to the second round. So I think that his Grand Slam victories or his Grand Slam appearances do stop at Shelton. So sadly, I have Shelton over Team. I really wish that wasn't a matchup, but luck at the draw. We got to deal with it. we got to deal with it. Now I have Shelton meeting Nardi, who goes over Batista Agut. With the next matches, Shevchenko over Kopfer meeting Tiafoe going into that second round. The last couple matches for the second round meetup, I got Papirin meeting Martinez with Struff going against Djokovic. So, for the third round, let's see. Interestingly enough, I got Eubanks prevailing over Rublev. Now, Rublev he has issues with his mental strength to where he can just really fly off the wall, and that can really affect his tennis, and that is going to be something that he really needs to be able to work on to get back to these super deep runs in Grand Slams. But I don't think that will be a solved issue because I think Eubanks can provide a really big challenge to Rublev that could potentially set Rublev off, giving the chance for Eubanks to pull it out to reach the third round, meeting Lehechka prevailing over Kruger. Now I got Baez meeting Dimitrov, with Dimitrov meeting Lehechka for the fourth round. So for the next matchups, Shelton versus Tiafoe. That is going to be an interesting pick. Oh. I gotta say, heart over head, I think Tiafoe can take it. He has shown really good fights in these past recent tournaments, and I think that he could provide a large challenge to Ben Shelton, and I think that might be too much for Ben to handle, so I think Tiafoe could pull out the victory for it. I don't know. Coin toss for that one. Now, Papirin meeting Djokovic. I do think Djokovic will make his way into the fourth round, also prevailing over Tiafoe in that fourth round to go to the quarterfinals, meeting Lehechka in that quarters, with Lehechka winning over Dimitrov in the fourth round. But overall, Djokovic, he'll win the quarterfinals. At least. I think that will be kind of an easy pick for that. But it does get interesting for the semis. So for the top half of the draw, I got Sinner meeting Alcaraz. That's an easy pick. A very reliable pick. How original am I? Definitely unlike the women's draw. But I do think most likely that will happen with Fritz meeting Djokovic in the semis. Now, again, if we get just a perfectly mentally strong Sinner, I do think that he could prevail over Alcaraz to reach the finals of the U.S. Open. It's going to be an interesting match to watch. Sinner can blow you off the court with his strong, consistent ground strokes. Alcaraz has that more variety, I would say, than Sinner. But considering their matchups, I think that in a perfect world, they're both at the top of their games. I do think that Sinner can make his way into that finals. So that comes down to Fritz versus Djokovic. Now, with Djokovic, obviously he is playing, or he has been playing tremendously, making the Wimbledon finals, and the and winning Olympics gold all after having knee surgery. Like he's an unnatural player. Unnatural, supernatural, I would say. And, with the Olympics having been like his main goal for this year and having accomplished that, he's really not chasing any more records, really. I mean, like, probably besides the most like title numbers, that's probably it. Like, he has reached basically like the pinnacle of men's tennis, and so after that, like, where really does he go? Like, it basically just comes down to adding more and more onto his record to widen that gap for the next person meeting or wanting to surpass that record. So I think at a point, you think, like, really he's accomplished it all. And I think that after the Olympics, after him winning gold medal, like him really accomplishing the last thing that he wants, not really last, but like the biggest thing that he wanted, discounting like other like Grand Slams, like the Olympics being his one big thing. It will be interesting to see where he's at now, because you never know. Like, it may be that he will say, I've accomplished everything that I want to accomplish. I still want to play. I'm still out here. It'll be interesting to see if he has that mental fight still to keep making these finals and really to keep winning. But yeah, like, is it going to be kind of like a breath relief so his brain can just finally relax, like he doesn't have anything? And is he going to want to keep on fighting now? So with that in consideration, I do think that Fritz will win over Djokovic. That's, again, a heart over head pick. Djokovic can easily, where his tennis is at now, he can easily make another finals again and possibly win it. But I think that Fritz, again, if he has that momentum going into the second week of the US Open, I think that he could really make his way or scratch his way into the finals. And so he could possibly make it to the finals. So that's why I have him over Djokovic in it. But all in all, I do have Sinner winning the US Open for his second Grand Slam of his career. Now, I will admit these picks are a little bit crazy, and feel free to go against me. But hey, those are my picks. That is my choices for the US Open. And yeah, I'm interested to see where my picks go. Leylah Fernandez, I want to have hope for her for the women's draw. I have her going to semis. We'll see if she can. But yeah, it'll be an interesting look to see where my picks matched up to where the tournament ends up going. But yeah, this was a fun first episode for Baseline. Thank you for listening. Hopefully there is more to come. Obviously, going down the road, things will get better as we progress. We all have to start somewhere. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this, listening to my rambling. So, yeah, I really appreciate it. Really appreciate your listening. So please come back for more. I will probably try to put in another episode after all the first round picks happen, see what stories come out of it, see how my matchups lined up with the actual matchups of the tournament. And yeah, so again, thank you for listening. This has been Baseline with your host, me, Colton Turner. Thanks for listening.